Good morning, students. Today, let's start our class with the lesson Dusk. This is a short story by H H Munro, who wrote under the pen name Saki. Munro had mastered the art of the unexpected ending. In Dusk, he uses the same device and holds the reader's interest till the very end. His full name is H H Munro, and he was born on 18th December 1870 in Burma, means Myanmar, and died on 14th November 1916. He was a British writer. His famous books are The Complete Short Stories of Saki, The Open Window, When William Came. Now, let's go through the chapter. This is an interesting story of a gentleman, Norman Godsby, who helps one young man, and later he realizes that the young man was a cunning man and he deceived him very nicely. As per this story, this incident happened in the month of March. Dusk. Dusk means evening. A man named Norman Godsby sat on a bench in the park and he was nicely observing the things happening around him. The dusk mitigated. Mitigated means lessened or reduced by some faint moonlight and many lamps. Okay, that was not feeling like dusk. And people were moving here and there on the road and sidewalk. Sidewalk means a pavement or path. Okay, some were sitting in the park also. Okay, and Mr. Norman was also watching and enjoying everything, sitting on the bench in the park. Dusk to his mind was the hour of the defeated. On the bench by his side sat an elderly, respectable, well-dressed gentleman, and he looked like a depressed old man and felt that he was expecting that he would get pleasure from his remaining future. By seeing him, Godsby imagined that the gentleman belonged unmistakably to that forlorn orchestra. Forlorn means bad, unpopular. Okay, and he had no enough money to live. He was thinking about that man. At the same time, the man rose to go, and he moved from there to his destination. After his going, a young man came there and sat on the same side. He was also fairly well dressed and was looking like very angry. He was talking to himself very angrily. Godsby understood that the young man was not in a good mood. Then Godsby told him, "You don't seem in a very good temper." Then he turned to Godsby and explained why he was angry. What was the reason? On that afternoon, he travelled to Berkshire Square, that is the name of a place there, to stay at the Patagonian Hotel. Okay, and what happened? But when he got there, means reached there, he found that the hotel had been pulled down some weeks ago and a cinema theatre run up on the same site. Then the taxi driver told him to go another hotel and he dropped the young man in another hotel. After that, the young man sent his people the new address and went out of the hotel for buying some soap. After buying the soap, he wanted to return to his hotel, but he forgot where was the hotel. Okay, and Also, he forgot the name of the hotel. It was the reason of his anger. The man also informed him that he had no money with him at present time. Only that afternoon he reached in that hotel, and everything was in the hotel only. Godsby had no belief on his story. So he shared one of his experience like the same scam that happened in a foreign country. Then he asked, means Godsby asked to the young man to show his soap that he bought. He put his hand into the pocket and searched, but there was no soap. Then he told angrily that I must have lost it. Then Godsby assumed that the man was lying. Then the man told Godsby, okay, you have no belief on me, but my story is real and I have no money and I don't know where will I stay tonight. Then he moved from there. Then Godsby also thought to walk away from that park. That time he noticed one small packet on the ground under the bench where the young man sat on. What was that? That was a cake of soap. He felt pitiful on that young man, that he hurt him by saying that he had no belief on him after listening his whole story. Then Godsby thought to find out the young man and help him. At last he found out him and apologized him for misunderstanding him and gave him a sovereign as loan, means an English gold coin equal to £1, and he had to return it later to Godsby. So Godsby gave him his address also and also returned the cake of soap, saying that don't lose it again. Again he informed him that to return his money on any of the day of that week. After receiving the soap and the gold coin, he left that place. Then Godsby said to himself that, poor boy, he as nearly as possible broke down. Then he thought that was lesson to him not to be too clever in judging by circumstances. He was very happy to help the young man, and at the same time he was so pitiful on him to disbelieve his words. As he returned, he saw the elderly gentleman who was his earlier occupant, means the gentleman who was sitting with Godsby in the park on the bench first. He came back and was searching something. Then Godsby asked him what he was searching for. Then the gentleman told him that he had lost a cake of soap. Actually, the soap was the old gentleman's. Okay? Students, you imagine now what was the condition of Godsby then? The young man deceived him very nicely. Before sitting on the bench, he saw the cake of soap there. So it was very easy for him to cheat Godsby by saying a false story on a cake of soap. Okay, students? So don't believe anyone at first sight. Hope you have understood the story well. Thank you.